MrBeast surpassed 100 million subscribers recently, which means YouTube gave him their red diamond play button as a reward. It's pretty cool, I guess, but I think I can do better. I'm a 3D artist, and with the help of my friend Tristan, I've made some of the world's best play buttons for YouTubers like Dude Perfect and MrBeast. But designing something to compete with a multi-billion-dollar company is still insanity. Despite all that, a few months ago, I pulled a couple all-nighters, and this is what I came up with. It's a 3D MrBeast head that's been decimated into a jagged shape with a liquid venom blob holding it up and authentic red diamond eyes. Big play buttons used to be customized to the person it was meant for, and I think this design brings it back in a big way. Even so, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to make this because there's so many ridiculously complex parts that it would take months to make and probably drive me to levels of insanity I have never experienced in my life. On top of that, these red diamonds are made in France, and they aren't exactly giving them away to whichever crusty Minecraft YouTuber looking guy that comes knocking, right? But looking at my track record, I could probably figure something out, even if it does cost me an arm and a leg and my house and several $1,000s. And so, against my better judgment, I logged into Twitter. That was the biggest mistake, to be honest. Have you seen that place? And I posted my work for the world to see. And boy, did they see it. More people saw that video than currently occupy the country of Ireland. And one of those people just so happened to be MrBeast himself, who personally asked me to build it in real life. Before I can make this out of metal, I have to make sure of two things. One, it looks decent in real life, and two, it's stable enough to hold its own weight. I made some scaled down pieces to test this, and it turns out this shape is impossible, so I added a little stem on the back to hold up the rest. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Very wrong, in fact. You see, MrBeast's 100 million play button will be made of four main pieces: the head, the jaw, the blob, I guess, and of course the base. Some of these pieces are pretty simple, but others, not so much. I can't just slap this blob on a CNC mill because not only would that waste thousands of dollars of material, I don't think I can even order a block of aluminum that big. Carving is off the table, so what does that leave us with? Casting. This ancient process of pouring metal into an empty mold has been around since houses didn't cost you your liver, and it's still being used to this very day. But in order to make a mold, you have to already have a life-size model ready to go. MrBeast probably wouldn't be too happy with a play button the size of a Skylander, so I have to find something else besides this 3D printer. What did I come up with, you may be asking? A bigger 3D printer. I still need as much detail on these as possible, so I got a special kind of printer that uses liquid resin instead of plastic. There's a screen underneath the vat that cures the resin layer by layer, meaning we're talking microns of detail. Unfortunately, this means the model will literally be hanging upside down, so I added a few hundred supports to make sure it doesn't fall off. And with that begins the waiting phase. I can make layers smaller than a human hair, a piece of paper, or the amount of time Pokemon developers put into their games. But that means there's a lot of layers. Some of these prints can take 2 or 3 days each, so I have to crank these out faster than Overwatch fans when a new copy-paste Google girl gets announced. Uh-oh, play the time lapse. As you can see, I made 2 sets of prints, one in gray and another one in purple. This purple resin has a special property to it that is integral to my master plan. You see, now that the prints are complete, it's time to move on to phase 2. This is where things get complicated, so allow me to simplify things as much as I can. This purple stuff has a high wax content, meaning it can be melted without leaving behind any residue. I'm gonna print out a bunch of wax pieces, stick them together with the sealing wax from a glue gun, and finally coat them in this forbidden lemonade. The resulting mess gets covered in silica sand, which can cause an incurable disease known as silicosis. If I put this in a special machine, the outer layer hardens and the inner wax melts out, leaving an empty cavity larger than the one in my heart for me to dump all this aluminum into. It's called lost wax casting, and it's by far my best option if I'm gonna get this done on time. But I have to remember who I'm up against. YouTube's official play button has a decent design, I guess, but the real MVP is the Crystal, a red diamond made by Baccarat, one of the world's most prestigious crystal companies since 250 years ago. That's back when the US looked like this and peanut butter did not exist yet. Without that crystal, this has no chance of stacking up to YouTube, which is why I doubt they expected me, of all people, to have not 1, but 2 Baccarat crystals of my own. Last time I made MrBeast a play button, the eyes were literal meteorites, but even that didn't cost as much as the sheer amount of fast food I consumed while I was there. Speaking of which, it's a new year, it's a new you. Are you trying to cut down on fast food? Don't lie to me. Because this video is partnered with Factor, who have a team of gourmet chefs Beast, making fresh dietitian-approved meals to send to your doorstep so you don't even have to leave your house. Not that you were going to anyways, let's be honest with ourselves. It's like having a personal chef, even when you're broke because you forgot to upload videos for 4 months in a row because you've been trying to figure out what all these 3D printing settings mean and how many supports you need to keep MrBeast's head from ripping off. It's a tough job, but you know what isn't? Microwave, 2 minutes, congratulations. If you're as busy as I am, you probably forget to eat most of the time so you don't have to cook anything, but have you factored in, I don't have a joke there, they save you a lot of time. If you're the type of person that eats packaged ramen most of the time, I'm not gonna judge you, but I am gonna suggest you head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code DanielCraft60 to get 60% off your first Factor box. That's enough of that, let's get back to the video. At this point in the process, MrBeast's play button is almost done, but there's 3 main steps left. Exhibit A, the crystal eyes. Red diamond crystal is pretty hard to get a hold of, but there's no way it'd stack up to YouTube without them. The red color actually comes from gold that's added to the mixture, so they don't make a lot of pieces with it, but they do make some. Take for example these doves. They are made of solid crystal and each dove is about the size of one MrBeast eye. You can't buy them anymore, but just my luck, someone was selling this exact sculpture on eBay. I placed my bets high, ready to annihilate any wine moms standing in my way, and soon enough the birds were mine. They look even better in person. It's almost a shame I have to chop them into tiny pieces, but unfortunately I lacked 2 things: the ability to cut crystal and the knowledge of anyone who can do it for me. So I pulled my signature move and walked into the nearest crystal store to find someone who can help. And find someone I did, because that was the day I met Brent Stewart.
My name is Brent Stewart. We've been in business 76 years, cut stones all my life. I like to mine and dig. Hopefully he's gonna take a lot of different pictures. We're gonna have some fun.
Not only did he say he could cut the eyes for me, he said he would show me his crystal dungeon. That could mean about 3 things, 2 of those are awesome. But before I could see this crystal dungeon, I've got one more thing to take care of: the lightning bolts. They're a symbol of many things: speed, power, and the Cars franchise of movies. But today they will symbolize none other than Jimothy himself. Over the course of this project, I've used gray resin and wax resin, but I don't think I've told you about crystal resin. I had my doubts at first, but this resin prints a crystal clear model that, when treated correctly, looks pretty close to what I needed. It takes some work, but it is more than worth it. If I showed these to you in real life, you probably wouldn't think that's a 3D print. With the bolts out of the way, we are only a few short steps from bringing this to MrBeast. So close, in fact, that we set ourselves a meeting. There's no turning back now. I have to finish and do it fast. But to be fair, there's not much that can go wrong now. Now that my chores are done, it's time to see this crystal dungeon. So bear with me here. Look at this guy Brent. Tell me what you think his house looks like. And then forget it, because it actually looks like... This really was a crystal dungeon. This guy has a Toy Story room. This guy has a museum in his basement. This guy has the women's suffrage sticker right next to the Bape Bart. I took one look at this place and I said to myself, these are going to be the best crystals I've ever laid my eyes upon. Roll it. It took us a couple nights, but the crystals turned out great. Exactly what I would expect from a Baccarat crystal in the hands of the best gem worker in the gem state. He even showed me his family's greatest pieces and something his grandfather discovered, the star garnet. The pieces were finally starting to come together, so I started looking for a foundry to fire the ceramics with. And I kept looking, and I kept looking. And eventually, I realized something terrible. I had accounted for almost everything in this project, but the one thing I did not account for was time. It's the holiday season, meaning everyone and their mother is unbelievably busy. It doesn't matter if it's a steel plant or a therapist. Trust me, they're busy. No one could help me out. I really don't want to disappoint MrBeast, but I literally have no play button to deliver. Or at least that's what a quitter would say. If you remember the beginning of this project, I made a test print to see how it would look. It may not be made of metal, but it's gonna be painted regardless. Last time this happened, I let myself waste away for months trying to make it perfect, but life isn't perfect, and MrBeast is getting his play button on time, even if I have to carve it out of dirt. I'm kidding. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna flee the country. I only had a few days left, but I still had to rely on one more person, the painters. Thankfully, they were super understanding and managed to pull off the impossible. Rick Macho did most of the painting, so big shout out to him and Mako. They're also starting a barber shop, so if you find yourself in Nampa, Idaho, get yourself to the Shop Men's Grooming for a haircut. I don't need one, thank you very much. Before I show you the final result, Mr. Beast is really busy these days, but when I give it to him, I'll record his reaction. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe, not only for my sake, but for yours. That's all from me. Please enjoy Mr. Beast's 100 million play button.
Mr. Beast 6000, yeah, you know his name. He changed it once or twice, but I think it's here to stay. His thumbnails, well, they're made in paint, but if you ask me, I think they're kinda quaint.